I don't think that there's anybody on this planet that doesn't recognize that this whole planet has entered into a new spiritual season just in the last year or two. I don't care who you are and where you are, you know that something has changed. And I strongly believe, if you've been following this channel, you know that I believe we're in the end times, that we are knocking at the door of Christ's second coming. But not just because I think so. It's because the Word of God has shown me. Jesus himself told us specifically to look for the signs. So we're going to take a look at 5 major signs Jesus Christ personally told the disciples privately to look for at his second coming. We're going to pick it up in Matthew 24, starting verse 3. Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famine, pestilence, and earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows." So the first thing that Jesus says to look for is there's going to be a lot of disasters around the earth. There's going to be a lot of wars, there's going to be a lot of famine, and then there's going to be a lot of earthquakes and natural disasters. And as we get closer, it's like the birthing pains of his second coming is coming to the world. Satanic forces are fighting harder than ever before. Angelic forces are defending harder than ever before. The saints are warring. I mean, there's so much going on, but how that starts is we see this increase in wars, famine, and natural disasters. But he says specifically, don't worry, Christians, because the whole world's going to be looking at the world freaking out. But he's saying, don't worry, Christians, because this is a good thing. This, what you're seeing, is the beginning of sorrows. Let's pick it up there. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. So the second thing he's saying is there's this major deception in the church. There's a major deception, just like we're seeing today. You know, if you would have said there's a major deception in the Christian church 20, 30 years ago, I think most of the country would have disagreed. But now, I believe most of the country strongly agrees that there's a deception in the church. There is so much false teachings taking place in the church that most people that would declare themselves to be Christian, that would shy away from sin and shun sin, are incredibly sinful. They're gluttonous. They want what they want. They're greedy. They want their favorite seat. They want the air conditioning to be the temperature they want. They want to hear the songs they want to hear, and they want to hear the pastor preach, and they want to make sure their parking space is there also. And if they don't get all that, they're super pissed. That is a deception of the church, ladies and gentlemen. But beyond that, it's embracing sin, and they are embracing sin. There's a lot of embracing of sin going on from non-Christians and Christians alike. There's this taking advantage of disasters. They will take advantage of all these natural disasters, and people will flock because what they're saying will tickle the heck out of their ears. It is deceiving people, and false teaching will arise as well. And then the persecution comes. Because what's going to happen is the small remnant, the few that will be preaching the gospel to the entire world will break away. The few that will war in the warring of the saints, those few will become criminals, and the rest of the Christians and the rest of the world will be pointing at them and turning them in. Is your third sign, the persecution of you, the remnant, the persecution of the Christians. I'm not worried about the armchair Christians. They're going to be just fine. They're going to be turning you in. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about the few that are saying what we're seeing in the church today, this is wrong. The ones that are brave enough to stand up and say, that's wrong. Those are the few that would be willing to war against the antichrist. Let's keep going. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been seen since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, and there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders, so as to deceive, if possible, even the elect. So the fourth sign is the antichrist. When the antichrist causes the abomination of desolation in the temple, and then there's this massive, what Jesus is saying is a massive persecution of Jerusalem specifically. When you see this onslaught in Jerusalem, when you see somebody desolating the temple, when you see the antichrist desolating the temple, that is a sign. And that's actually a stopwatch sign. Now you got a 3.5-year stopwatch once you see that. And what he's saying here is these disasters are so terrible that you're lucky that they're shortened. Because if they weren't shortened, the whole world would just simply perish and die. This is another sign that Jesus is saying there is no pre-tribulation rapture. This warning of the saints is for you. And any sort of blessing that comes from this for you, armchair Christians, any sort of blessing that comes from this is just the fact that he shortened the days of your suffering. That's the only thing that you'll get from this. Let's keep going. For as lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcasses is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Fifth thing that you're going to see is you're going to see darkness. The entire world will be covered in darkness. There's prophecies all throughout the Old and New Testament about this darkness that's coming. It is coming. And a lot of people will wonder what is happening. How could this possibly get any worse? And then the sun is rolled up like a scroll and there is nothing but artificial light on this earth. And that will be all that will exist as far as light comes. And then you will see the sign of the Son of Man coming. And then he will gather together his elect, which will be the saints, the only saints that survived the warring of the saints. So there you go. There's the 5 signs that Jesus gave for his second coming. Specifically, privately to the disciples. Not publicly on the Mount of Olives, but privately to the disciples, because the rest of them wouldn't have understood it. There's only a small elect few. This is specifically designed for the remnant to understand. The rest of them, the rest of the Christians and the rest of everybody else, they will be confused because God will confuse them, is what he says they will do. But as for the remnant, they'll be staring at this and they'll understand what's happening. And according to Jesus, we're to rejoice. Sounds great to me. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Put it in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.